In episode 167 of the American Reveille Podcast, I'm going to show you the strategy that the Taliban has used to retake Afghanistan. It's an old strategy called slow, quick, which was later adapted into the German Blitzkrieg strategy, which now, mixed with some guerrilla warfare, if not a lot of guerrilla warfare, is the Taliban Blitzkrieg strategy. I'm going to show you the recent events leading up to this avoidable scenario and how Joe Biden is responsible for the largest FU to veterans and U.S. taxpayers in the history of our beloved country. Stay tuned. Howdy folks, welcome to the episode. We're going to get right to it. In April, Joe Biden tastelessly announced a full troop withdrawal from Afghanistan by September 11th of this year. Soon after, and probably to cover up the stink of his September 11th withdrawal date decision, he publicly announced that the 31st of August would now be our last day in the desert. There's an article right here that has that headline, the one that you just saw before that I had up on the screen to show the September 11th date came straight from the DOD itself. This one is U.S. News overdue. Biden sets August 31st. For U.S. exit from Afghanistan. So immediately after that, the Taliban, sensing weakness, initiated a very old strategy, the one that I was talking about in the intro to this podcast. It's called slow, quick. It's a blitzkrieg strategy. Sound familiar? So from all sides, the Taliban tested the waters as all U.S. forces concentrated on the closure of 7 major U.S. bases. The Taliban moved beyond testing the waters and seized hundreds, if not thousands, of U.S. weapons, Humvees, drones, guns, ammunition, helicopters, you name it. I mean, you should name it anyway. We did pay for it. You know, that's our U.S. tax dollars. I want you to take a look here on the screen really quick. This is mapping Taliban contested and controlled districts in Afghanistan, all right? Look at this top picture here. Now, if you're listening, we're looking at another page right here that's showing the time lapse of the Taliban's advance since April 13th. Remember, April 13th, the date from the DOD that Biden announced the full withdrawal in full detail in public. All right. So you can see here, there's contested areas in this light tan color. The red color shows the Taliban controlled areas, and the gray color is showing the government controlled areas. If you play this, it goes through the dates, April 21st, April 27th. It's nice and slow, normal fighting, June 3rd, June 9th. All of a sudden, stuff's changing. June 23rd, July 10th, July 17th. From all angles, the Taliban's taking territory. That was weird. It was very quiet. But all of a sudden, July 17th, all right, what is that, a month ago? Boom, they're taking territory. Keep going. July 25th, August 3rd, August 6th, August 7th, August 8th. Look, quiet. August 10th, boom. August 12th, let's go. August 13th. They've taken almost the entire country at that point. I mean, if you're listening and you can't wrap your head around what I'm talking about, like I said, I'm looking at a map of Afghanistan, and I'm looking at the territorial changes, the conflicted and contested areas versus Taliban-controlled versus government-controlled. And it shows a rapid surrounding strategy from all angles and all sides, this quick mobile force that the Taliban has, attacking. All right? And what has happened thus far? All right. If you are listening, like I said, you won't be able to see this. You should check out the video podcast. Go on Gab, go on Rumble, go on YouTube. There's links down below. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But from all sides, the Taliban hit. All right. So the Taliban, they struck fear across the country. They've been beheading women and children. They're torturing people. These are people that our veterans died for. These are people that our veterans suffer for to this very day. Okay, as you can see, my shirt here says End Veteran Suicide. You can bet we're going to have an even larger issue because of this. At lightning speed, every city in the country fell. And as people were dying, Joe Biden defended his position. Look right here on the screen. Biden defends Afghanistan decision, blames Trump for empowering the Taliban. All right. He defended his position. He doubled down on his rhetoric, and he blamed President Trump for his own obvious and miserable failures. And if you're questioning the executions and beheadings, look right here. Taliban executions, beheadings in Afghanistan strike fear among those stuck inside the country. That's on the MSN website. It might be Fox News, but that's coming from the MSN website. And if you're wondering about all of the armaments that they took, look right here from American Military News. Pics and videos. Taliban captures hundreds of U.S. military vehicles and drones to keep taking over Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, you can read it yourself. I'll put all the sources down below. It is bad news. All right. It is not recoverable. Biden has sent 3,000, now 5,000 troops. It is not going to go well. It is not going well. I promise you that. I promise you that on everything that I know. All right. Look, from the border crisis to COVID to Afghanistan, Joe Biden has been really, really good at pointing the finger and avoiding all accountability whatsoever. The Democrats, though, they can't run from this one. Kabul will fall by tonight if it hasn't already. All right. The corrupt Afghani president, Ghani, he's already fled the country. If you don't know it already, the president of Afghanistan has left. He's kaput. He's gone. He ran away. OK, the corrupt Afghani president is gone. American citizens, you know what they're being told by the Department of Defense, by the U.S. government? They're being told to shelter in place and wait for help to arrive. How did we even get here? How did we even get here? Well, Joe Biden has punished the American people for daring to question his reign of terror. This is now truly our Vietnam, folks. Regardless of what Blinken says, go look at these pictures I'm showing you. Go look. You'll see the death, the destruction, the terrified Americans fleeing the rooftops. You don't believe me? Take a look. Taliban enter Kabul. Afghan president flees the country. Live updates. There's plenty of pictures floating around that you can find of helicopters evacuating folks off of rooftops. Does that sound familiar to you if you're a little older than I am? It should. It should. It's not a good thing. And what's going to happen? Look at this. Afghanistan war veterans feeling demoralized, struggling with mental health amid U.S. withdrawal. Why do you think I wear this shirt, ladies and gentlemen? It is not my company. They do not sponsor me, so don't worry about it. It isn't like that. But I'm telling you, people have suffered for the innocent people over there. All right. And Trump had a solid exit plan, a way to hold the Taliban accountable, a way to hold the terrorists accountable. But it isn't happening now. It isn't happening now. The floodgates are open in the southern border, and it isn't just Mexicans coming through. Trust me. They've already caught people off the FBI's most wanted terrorist list. So how many have gotten through? I don't know if you remember this, but the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are like this, and we happened to kill their main man, Osama. So welcome to the party, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the party. Look, there's a famous book, all right? It's called The 33 Strategies of War. It's by Robert Greene. It's very well known. It's respected, and I've studied it in great detail. Chapter 14 is the cookie cutter strategy for what we're seeing taking place in Afghanistan right now. So I'm going to read from that chapter. I showed you the articles already. We're going to talk about Biden and the Taliban along the way. And by the time we're done, you will know exactly what happened and have irrefutable proof on the matter. So also, I'd like to say thank you for supporting the American Reveille. Just do me a favor, take a moment, hit the subscribe or follow button, share this podcast with as many people as you know. They will censor this, so please, please, please do not help the tyrants by overlooking how important you are in this fight. All right, folks, we have a new schedule. New podcasts will be released every single Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and our publication will be updated almost daily. All right, so we are growing, and we're going to get right into this, guys. Let's read. Chapter 14. Overwhelm resistance with speed and suddenness. The Blitzkrieg strategy. In a world in which many people are indecisive and overly cautious, the use of speed will bring you untold power. Striking first, before your opponents have time to think or prepare, will make them emotional, unbalanced, and prone to error. When you follow with another swift and sudden maneuver, you will induce further panic and confusion. This strategy works best with a setup, a lull. Your unexpected action catches your enemy off guard. When you strike, hit with unrelenting force, acting with speed and decisiveness will garner you respect, awe, and irresistible momentum. War is such that the supreme consideration is speed. This is to take advantage of what is beyond the reach of the enemy, to go by way of routes where he least expects you, and to attack where he has made no preparations. That's Sun Tzu. You know that, The Art of War, 4th century BC, guys. So let's read a little further into slow, quick, that thing I mentioned in the beginning of the show. In 1218, Muhammad II, the Shah of Khwarazm, received a visit from 3 ambassadors on behalf of Genghis Khan, the leader of the Mongol Empire to the east. The visitors bore magnificent gifts and, more important, the offer of a treaty between the 2 powers that would allow the reopening of the lucrative Silk Road connecting China and Europe. The Shah's empire was immense, incorporating present-day Iran and much of Afghanistan. Coincidence, right? His capital, Samarkand, was fabulously wealthy, a symbol of his power, and increased trade along the route which would only add, to these riches. Since the Mongols made it clear they considered him the superior partner in the deal, the Shah decided to sign the treaty. A few months later, a Mongol caravan arrived in the city of Otrar, in the northeastern corner of the Shah's empire, with the mission to buy luxury items for the Mongol court. The governor of Otrar suspected the men in the caravan of being spies. He had them killed. He seized the goods they had brought to barter. Hearing of this outrage, Genghis Khan dispatched an ambassador, escorted by 2 soldiers, to the Shah, calling for an apology. The demand, which presumed to put the 2 empires on equal footing, incensed the Shah. He had the ambassador's head cut off and sent back to Genghis Khan, which, of course, meant war. The Shah, he wasn't afraid. His army, anchored by its well-trained Turkish cavalry, numbered over 400,000, at least twice the enemy's size. By defeating the Mongols in battle, the Shah could finally take over their land. He assumed the Mongols would attack Transoxiana, the easternmost part of the Shah's empire. Bordered by the east by the 500-mile-long Sir Darya River, to the north by the Kizilkum Desert, and to the west by the Amu Darya River, Transoxiana's interior was also home to 2 of the most important cities of the empire, Samarkand and Bukhara. The Shah decided to establish a cordon of soldiers along the Sir Darya, which the Mongols would have to cross to enter his empire. They could not cross from the north. The desert was impassable, and to go to the south would be too great a detour. Keeping the bulk of his army in the interior of Transoxiana, he would be able to place reinforcements where needed. He had an impregnable defense position and superiority in numbers. Let the Mongols come. He would crush them. Sounds pretty cocky. Sounds like Joe Biden. In the summer of 1219, scouts reported that the Mongols were approaching the southern end of the... And let me just say this. I'll go back 2 seconds. I said it sounds like Joe Biden because just a month and a half ago, he was on the television telling everybody, telling all of the impressionable people of the left that Afghanistan would never ever fall under Taliban control. It was impossible. Ooh, what a short-sighted, cocky thought, huh? Sounds kind of like the Shah here. So anyway, in the summer of 1219, scouts reported that the Mongols were approaching the southern end of the Sir Darya through the Fergana Valley. The Shah sent a large force under the leadership of his son Jalal ad-Din to destroy the enemy. After a fierce battle, the Mongols retreated. Jalal ad-Din reported back to his father that the Mongol army was not nearly as fearsome as their reputation. The men looked haggard, their horses emaciated, and they seemed none too eager to sustain a fight. The Shah, believing the Mongols no match for his army, put more troops at the southern end of the cordon and waited. A few months later, a Mongol battalion appeared without warning in the north, attacking the city of Otrar and capturing its governor. The same man responsible for the outrage against the Mongol traders, the Mongols killed him by pouring molten silver into his eyes and ears. You can go ask George R.R. Martin where he got his Game of Thrones scene from. Stunned by how quickly they had managed to reach Otrar and from an unexpected direction, the Shah decided to shift more troops to the north. These barbarians might move swiftly, he reasoned, but they could not overcome an entrenched army at such great numbers. Next, however, two Mongol armies swept south from Otrar. Running parallel to the Sir Darya, one under General Joshi began to attack key towns along the river, while the other, under General Jebe, disappeared to the south. Like locusts, Joshi's army swarmed through the hills and lowlands near the river. The Shah moved a good portion of his army to the river, keeping some reserves in Samarkand. Joshi's force was relatively small, 20,000 at most. These mobile units hit from one position after another without warning, burning forts and wreaking havoc. As you saw on the map I showed you earlier, the Taliban sent their forces in all different directions, attacking from all different angles. All right, we underestimated them. We've underestimated them for years. Joe Biden looked at them like ignorant sheep farmers, ignorant goat herders, just doing their thing, mulling around. And look how quickly such a small force can mobilize against a giant like the United States, against an entire country like Afghanistan. Like this says here, the Shah moved a good portion of his army to the river, keeping some reserves in Samarkand, while Joshi's forces, Joshi's, whatever it's called, his force was relatively small, 20,000 at most, small, like the Taliban's forces. Mobile units hitting one position after another without warning, burning forts, wreaking havoc. And what is the Taliban doing? What have they been doing? Burning, wreaking havoc, beheading people, torturing people. Sounds very familiar. Battles and wars don't have to be the same, but the strategies and tactics are timeless, folks. They are timeless. Reports from the front lines began to give the Shah a picture of these strange warriors from the east. Their army was all cavalry. It's not cavalry like the church. Each Mongol not only rode a horse, but was trailed by several more riderless horses, all mares, and when his own horse tired, he would mount a fresh one. These horses were light and fast. The Mongols were unencumbered by supply wagons. They carried their food with them. They drank the mare's milk and blood and killed and ate the horses that had become weak. They could travel twice as fast as their enemy. Their marksmanship was extraordinary, facing forward or in retreat. They could fire arrows with remarkable dexterity, making their attacks far deadlier than anything the Shah's army had ever seen. Their divisions communicated over great distances with flags and torches. Their maneuvers were precisely coordinated and nearly impossible to anticipate. Just like the guerrilla warfare the North Vietnamese attacked us with in Vietnam, so too does the Taliban in Afghanistan. It is the same type of move, all right? We cannot anticipate their moves. Slow, slow, quick, quick. Dealing with this constant harassment exhausted the Shah's forces. Now suddenly, the army under General Jebe that had disappeared to the south reappeared, heading northwest into Transoxiana at remarkable speed. The Shah hurriedly sent south his last reserves, an army of 50,000 to do battle with Jebe. He still was not worried. His men had proved their superiority in direct combat at the battle in Fergana Valley. This time, however, it was different. The Mongols unleashed strange weapons, their arrows dipped in burning tar, which created smoke screens behind which their lightning-quick horsemen advanced, opening breaches in the lines of the Shah's army through which more heavily armed cavalry would advance. Chariots darted back and forth behind the Mongol lines, bringing up constant supplies. The Mongols filled the sky with arrows, creating relentless pressure. They wore shirts of heavy silk. An arrow that managed to pierce the shirt would rarely reach the flesh and could be extracted easily by pulling at the shirt. All of this done while moving at great speed. You keep hearing that word, speed. It's the key word, folks. Jebe's army annihilated the Shah's forces. All right? The Shah had one option left: retreat to the west, retrench, and slowly rebuild his army. As he began preparations, however, something beyond belief occurred. An army under Genghis Khan himself suddenly stood outside the gates of the city of Bukhara to the west of Samarkand. Where did they come from? They could not have crossed the Kizilkum Desert to the north. Their appearance seemed all but impossible, as if the devil himself had conjured them up. Bukhara soon fell, and within days Samarkand followed. Soldiers deserted, generals panicked, the Shah, fearing for his life, fled with a handful of soldiers. The Mongols pursued him relentlessly. Months later, on a small island in the Caspian Sea, abandoned by one and all, wearing rags and begging for food, the former ruler of the wealthiest empire in the East finally died from hunger. Folks, like I said before, President Ghani has fled. Afghan government falls. The Taliban victory was shockingly swift after the U.S. began pulling its forces after 20 years of war. Take it for yourself. That's CNN.com, ladies and gentlemen. CNN.com. So let's keep reading. There's an interpretation and there's more stories and things that are going to make this fall into place for you folks. When Genghis Khan became the leader of the Mongol nation, he inherited perhaps the fastest army on the planet, but their swiftness had translated into limited military success. The Mongols might have perfected the art of fighting on horseback, but they were too undisciplined to exploit any advantage they gained this way or to coordinate for a large-scale attack. The genius of Genghis Khan was to transform the chaotic Mongol speed into something organized, disciplined, and strategic. He achieved this by adapting the ancient Chinese strategy of slow, slow, quick, quick. The first step, a slow, was to meticulously prepare before any campaign, which the Mongols always did to the highest degree. What do you think the Taliban has been doing? In planning for the attack on the Shah, the Mongols learned of a guide who knew of a chain of oases across the Kizilkum Desert. This man was captured and later led Genghis Khan's army across the forbidding territory. The second slow was a setup, which involved getting the enemy to lower its guard, lulling it into complacency. Did you not see on the map that I showed you folks where, yeah, the Taliban was fighting ever since April, but what did they do? April, May, June, and even into July a little bit. It was just weak fighting. Territories didn't change too much. It wasn't that crazy. Then all of a sudden, as soon as the end of July, early August hit, bam! It was a force and a speed and a surrounding the like of which nobody ever expected. Our own big government could never have expected it, unless the right people were in power, of course. So the second slow. The Mongols, for example, deliberately lost the first battle in the Fergana Valley to feed the Shah's arrogance. Then came the first quick, fixing the enemy's attention forward with a swift frontal attack, Jebe's raids along the river. The final quick was a doubtly swift blow from an unexpected direction. Genghis Khan's sudden appearance before the gates of Bukhara is considered by many the greatest military surprise in history. A master of psychological warfare, Genghis Khan understood that men are most terrified by the unknown and unpredictable. The suddenness of his attacks made the speed of them doubly effective, leading to confusion and panic. And when the Taliban's taking these cities with swift execution and executing people, torturing people, cutting heads off, raping and killing women and children, what do you think happens? Just like it said in the last sentence here, the suddenness of his attacks made the speed of them doubly effective, leading to confusion and panic. All right? Terrified by the unknown and the unpredictable. People are rash and scared creatures, folks. We live in a world in which speed is prized above all else, and acting faster than the other side has itself become the primary goal. But most often, people are merely in a hurry, acting and reacting frantically to events, all of which makes them prone to error and wasting time in the long run. In order to separate yourself from the pack, to harness a speed that has devastating force, you must be organized and strategic. First, you prepare yourself before any action, scanning your enemy for weakness. Then, you find a way to get your opponents to underestimate you, to lower their guard. When you strike unexpectedly, they freeze. What did Joe Biden do? He went on vacation. He went on vacation. Do you like my Joe Biden whisper? He went on vacation. That's where he went. When you hit again, it's from the sides, out of nowhere. It's the unanticipated blow that makes the biggest impact. And when they hit from all sides, they stormed Kabul. It's been less than days, ladies and gentlemen, and they have taken the capital and the entire country. You saw it yourself, CNN.com. Go there, check it out. The less a thing is foreseen, the more fright does it cause. This is nowhere seen better than in war, where every surprise strikes terror, even to those who are much stronger. That's from Xenophon, 430-355 BC. And this is from Chen, the arousing shock thunder. It's from the I Ching from China. It's circa 8th century BC. The hexagram Chen represents the eldest son, who seizes rule with energy and power. A yang line develops between the two yins and presses upward forcibly. This movement is so violent that it arouses terror. It is symbolized by thunder, which bursts forth from the earth, and by its shock causes fear and trembling. The judgment shock brings success. Shock comes. Laughing words. The shock terrifies all for 100 miles. Like I said, 8th century BC, guys. This isn't new. It's not new at all. Let's read the keys to warfare. Let's read the keys to warfare and talk about it a little. In May 1940, the German army invaded France in the Low Countries using a new form of warfare, the Blitzkrieg. Advancing with incredible speed, the Germans coordinated tanks and airplanes in an attack that culminated in one of the quickest and most devastating victories in military history. The success of the Blitzkrieg was largely due to the Allies' static, rigid defense, similar to the Shah's defense against the Mongols. When the Germans breached this defense, the Allies could not adjust or react in time. The Germans advanced faster than their enemy could process what was happening. And by the time the Allies decided upon a counter-strategy, it was too late. Conditions had changed. They were always a step behind. The U.S. and Afghanistan security forces had a rigid, static defense. All right. When they announced that the U.S. was leaving indefinitely, it gave the Taliban an advantage. It gave them a window to play out a strategy such as this, a guerrilla warfare style, slow, quick, a Taliban Blitzkrieg. Folks, that is what happened. We froze up. We didn't know what to do. And by the time Biden sent these 3,000 to 5,000 troops to evacuate people, it's already too late. The conditions have changed. The Afghani government has fallen. Now more than ever, we find ourselves dealing with people who are defensive and cautious, who begin any action from a static position. The reason is simple. The pace of modern life is increasingly growing faster, full of distractions, annoyances, and interruptions. The natural response for many is to retreat inward, to erect psychological walls against the harsh realities of modern life. Again, where's Joe Biden? He is on vacation. You may ask where Kamala Harris is and her border responsibilities. I was going to say responsibilities. Responsibilities. She may be on vacation. Nobody's seen her in the last month or two. People hate the feeling of being rushed and are terrified of making a mistake. They unconsciously try to slow things down by taking longer to make decisions, being non-committal, defensive, and cautious. Blitzkrieg warfare, adapted for daily combat, is the perfect strategy for these times. While those around you remain defensive and immobile, you surprise them with sudden and decisive action. You force them to act before they are ready. They can't respond, and they usually do by being elusive or cautious. They will most likely become emotional and react imprudently. You have breached their defenses, And if you keep up the pressure and hit them again and again with something unexpected, you will send them into a kind of downward psychological spiral, pushing them into mistakes, which further deepens their confusion, and so the cycle goes on. Many of those who practiced a form of blitzkrieg warfare on the battlefield use it to great effect in daily life. Julius Caesar, master of speed and surprise, was a great example of this. From out of the blue, he might form an alliance with a senator's bitterest enemy, forcing the senator either to change his opposition to Caesar or to risk a dangerous confrontation. Equally, he might unexpectedly pardon a man who had fought against him. Caught off guard, the man would become a loyal ally. Caesar's reputation for doing the unpredictable made people all the more cautious in his presence, further enhancing his ability to catch those around him unawares. But the genius, there's a quote here, but the genius in Ali takes his limitations and makes them virtues. Let us go step by step. I can't think of a past heavyweight champion whose punching power wasn't superior to Ali's, yet in his first 20 fights, Ali, then Cassius Clay, won every one of them, scoring 17 knockouts. So what was Ali's mystery? Why does a man who every expert agrees has no punching power knock most of his opponents out, including a one-punch KO over Sonny Liston on Ali's first defense of his title? The answer is in speed and timing. Clay then, and Ali now, has the ability to let punches go with extreme quickness. But more important, at the right moment, just before the man in front of him is able to put the boxer's sense of anticipation to work. When that happens, the man getting hit doesn't even see the punch. As a result, this man's brain can't prepare him to receive the impact of the blow. The eyes couldn't send the message back to the part of the body which would take the shock. So we arrive at one knockout of a conclusion. The punch that puts you to sleep is not so much the hard punch as the punch you don't see coming. That's from Sting Like a Bee from Jose Torres and Burt Randolph Sugar, 1971. And I want to say that that is Joe Biden getting punched in the face by the Taliban. He underestimated them. They've been preparing. They are quick. They are mobile. They hit from all sides. He didn't expect a punch, and a punch came. That's what happened. This strategy works wonders on those who are particularly hesitant and afraid of making any kind of mistake. In similar fashion, if you're facing an enemy that has divided leadership or internal cracks, a sudden and swift attack will make the cracks larger and cause internal collapse. That's the Afghan government and the U.S. government. Half of the success of Napoleon Bonaparte's form of blitzkrieg warfare was that he used it against armies of allies in which several bickering generals were in charge of a strategy. Once his army broke through these armies' defenses, dissension would break out and they would fall apart from within. And do you think the Taliban is stupid? Do you think they don't see what's happening in the United States? Do you not see that they know that we are bickering, we are fighting, that our leadership is fighting with each other? We are paralyzed to do anything about what's happening in Afghanistan right now. And they know it. And they seized the opportunity. All right? That is strategic planning 101. They have been watching, they have been waiting, and they have executed. And we are too late to act. The blitzkrieg strategy can be effective in diplomacy, too. As Henry Kissinger demonstrated, the former U.S. Secretary of State would often take his time when beginning diplomatic negotiations, lulling the other side with bland banter. Then, with the deadline for the end of the talks approaching, he would suddenly hit them with a list of demands. Without enough time to process what was happening, they became prone to giving in or to becoming emotional and making mistakes. This was Kissinger's version of slow, quick. For their initial thrust into France during World War II, the Germans chose to attack through the Ardennes forest in southern Belgium. The forest, considered impenetrable by tank, was lightly guarded. Pushing through this weak point, the Germans were able to build up speed and momentum. In launching a blitzkrieg, you must begin by finding your enemy's weak point and initiating the action where there will be less resistance, so it will allow you to develop crucial momentum. The weak point was Biden's announcement of our withdrawal and then the announcement of it changing to the 31st, which let the Taliban know, and I'm sure plenty of spies and people in the Afghan government leaked it as well. He let them know it would be a hasty withdrawal. They would leave things behind. They were closing the bases down, and they were getting the hell out of Dodge. That gave the Taliban the opportunity they needed to seize every single city in the country. Every single city in the country. The success of this strategy depends on three things: a group that is mobile, often the smaller the better, superior coordination between the parts, and the ability to send orders quickly up and down the chain of command, something our discombobulated government and military can't do right now. Do not depend on technology to accomplish this. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military might have in fact been hindered by its superior communication. Too much information to be processed, made for slower response times. What do you think happened now? Same story, different year, folks. The North Vietnamese, who depended on a well-coordinated network of spies and informers, just like the Taliban, not gadgetry, made decisions more quickly, and as a result, were more nimble on the ground. Shortly after being elected president in 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt seemed to disappear from the public stage. The Depression was at its height, and for many Americans, this was not very reassuring. Then, with his inauguration, Roosevelt changed tempo, giving a rousing speech that showed he had in fact been meditating deeply on the issues facing the country. In the weeks that followed, he came at Congress fast and furiously with a series of bold legislative proposals. The intensity of this new direction was felt all the more because of the slow setup. More than mere drama, the momentum built by the strategy helped Roosevelt to convince the public that he meant business and he was leading the country in the right direction. This momentum translated into support for his policies, which in turn helped spur confidence and turn the economy around. By Julius Caesar, Veni Vidi Vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. Speed, then, is not only a powerful tool to use against an enemy, but it can also have a bracing, positive influence on those on your side. Frederick the Great noted that an army that moves quickly has higher morale. Velocity creates a sense of vitality. Moving with speed means there is less time for you and your army to make mistakes. It also creates a bandwagon effect. More and more people admiring your boldness will decide to join forces with you. Like Roosevelt, make such decisive action as dramatic as possible. A moment of quiet and suspense on the stage before you make your startling entrance. Image: the storm. The sky becomes still and calm, and a lull sets in, peaceful, soothing. Then, out of nowhere, lightning strikes. The wind picks up the sky, explodes. It is the suddenness of the storm that is so terrifying. Authority: you must be slow in deliberation and swift in execution. That's Napoleon Bonaparte, 1769 to 1821. And there's a reversal here, and it states slowness can have great value, particularly as a setup. To appear slow and deliberate, even a little foolish, Taliban goat herders, will lull your enemies, infecting them with a sleepy attitude. Once their guard is down, an unexpected blow from the side will knock them out. Your use of slowness and speed then should be deliberate and controlled, never a natural tempo that you fall into. In general, when facing a fast enemy, the only true defense is to be fast or faster. Only speed can neutralize speed. Setting up rigid defenses, as the Shah did against the Mongols, only plays into the hands of the swift and mobile. And as we all know, sleepy Joe Biden is anything but swift and mobile. So let's do some recap. What has happened? What went wrong? Where were we? Where are we? Where are we going? I'm just going to go over the stuff we went over in the beginning, now that we've read through chapter 14 of the 33 strategies of war, and we've talked about all these things, and I've shown you the pictures, I've shown you the beheadings, I've shown you the Taliban entering Kabul, the Afghan president fleeing, CNN declaring that the Taliban has taken Afghanistan. I've shown you the mental health issues that are going to be faced by veterans. I've shown you all of these things that are on all of these different news networks, including the Department of Defense's website and other things. I've shown you the headlines. If you're listening, you can, like I said, go in the description section below, find the links, and watch the videos. But we're going to recap what's happened, and then we're going to have a little talk for a small second, and then we're going to end the episode. All right, guys, thank you so much for sticking around so far. So what happened? In April, Joe Biden tastelessly announced the full troop withdrawal from Afghanistan by September 11th of this year. Soon after, and like I said before, to most likely cover up his stink, the stink of using September 11th as a withdrawal date, he publicly announced that August 31st would now be our last day in the desert. Immediately, the Taliban, seeking weakness, initiated a very old strategy entitled slow, slow, quick, quick, a blitzkrieg strategy. So from all sides, the Taliban tested the waters for a couple months as U.S. forces concentrated on the closure of 7 major U.S. bases. Then they started attacking, fighting, coming in from all sides, seizing hundreds and thousands of U.S. weapons, Humvees, drones, guns, ammunition, helicopters. They got it all. They've got it all, and you paid for it, my taxpayer friends, you and I. The Taliban struck fear across the country. They behead women, they behead children, they tortured people that our veterans died for, were maimed for, and suffer mental health consequences to this day from. All right? At lightning speed, every city in the country fell, and as you've seen, Kabul has fallen. The president of Kabul, the president of Afghanistan, Ghani, he has left. He's gone. All right. It is gone. Today is the day Afghanistan falls. All right. At lightning speed, they all fell. Every city, every part of the country fell. People were dying. People are dying. Joe Biden defended his position. He doubled down on his rhetoric. He blamed the 45th president of the United States, President Donald Trump, of course, even though Trump's been gone for almost a year. But, you know, that's what failures do. Failures blame other people instead of taking ownership and responsibility and fixing the problem. And how do you know that? Joe Biden went on vacation. All right. So from the border crisis to COVID to Afghanistan, Joe Biden, he pointed the finger. He avoided accountability all together. Like I said earlier, the Democrats can't run from this. Kabul will fail and fall by tonight if it hasn't already. And as I've shown you, the Afghan government has fallen and the Taliban has seized control. The corrupt Afghani president, he left, he fled the country. American citizens are being told to shelter in place because the airport is under attack. That's right, folks. Just wait till you find out Americans die over there, because it may happen. Joe Biden, what he's done, he's punished the American people for daring to question his reign of terror. So now this is truly our Vietnam. Blinken goes on TV. He says, this is nothing like Vietnam. Go look at the pictures. Like I said earlier, you'll see the death. You'll see the helicopters pulling people off the roof. You'll see terrified Americans fleeing the country from rooftops. And you'll see Taliban soldiers holding missile launchers and rockets and grenades marching into these cities and hurting people. It's only a matter of time. So I have a message. I have a message for Joe Biden from all of us. And I want to say, thank you. I want to say thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you for the tens of thousands of veterans who will inevitably kill themselves because of your decisions. Thank you, Joe Biden, for the tens of thousands and eventually millions of freedom-seeking Afghani citizens who will die from torture, execution, and starvation because of you. And thank you, Joe Biden, for the future terror attacks on this country as Al-Qaeda operatives have already re-entered through our southern border. Thank you. Remember, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, they'll come for vengeance. They will praise Mohammed and honor Osama bin Laden as our children die in terror attacks. You're a son of a bitch, and we the people, we hope you burn in hell. That's episode 167. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Hey folks, how you guys doing? Just a couple quick suggestions here. go to getter.com. That's gettr.com and follow me there. I'd really appreciate it. That's at James Lane, JameSLane. It's this great new platform that one of the advisors, I think the top advisor to President Trump, has created. It seems to be a really great place, and I'm trying to grow my community there as well. So for all of you fans of the American Reveille, I would really appreciate it if you'd head to Getter, gettr.com. Find me there at James Lane and follow along. It seems to be a great place so far. It feels like Parler felt before they upgraded it and made it really crappy, right? Like none of us like Parler now. Parler is really crappy. I really wish they'd do a better job, but all those improvements really made it suck. But this Getter app, this Getter site, gettr.com, it really feels like Parler used to feel, and I really enjoy it. I do. Also, if you could, just another suggestion, do me a favor, head over to gab.com/American_Reveille. I really love the Gab platform as well. It's another great place to find some alt social media where the Facebook and Twitter police can't come and get you. But Gab is great. I really enjoy them. That's at American_Reveille. A lot of people confuse the spelling. Reveille means it's like a wake up call, guys. And I really love how it sounds, American Reveille. So I'm not going to change the name of the company, the trademarked name, mind you. But do me a favor, American_Reveille, just in case, REVEILLE, so that you know how to spell it from here forward. See it right there on the screen. REVEILLE. That's American_Reveille. You'll find me on most platforms under that name. And you can always go on the top there. There's a little button that says TV. Go to Gab TV. That's another alternate platform to YouTube. I've told you about Odyssey and Rumble and some of the other ones, but Gab TV is particularly fantastic. They have a great algorithm. My videos get around well there. The last videos we did at 400 plus views, and I greatly appreciate it. If you're watching already on Gab TV, I greatly appreciate you following along. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're viewing this, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It might be an upvote. It might not be a like button, but do the right thing. Give me those kudos, please. Hit the share button. I need you to talk about what we're doing and leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. All right. Please do me a favor by supporting our sponsor, Life Change Tea. Guys, Life Change Tea is this amazing cleanse product. All right. I've been drinking this every day for a couple months now. The pomegranate flavor is the one that I'm hooked on right now. But let me tell you something, guys. This Life Change Tea over at getthetea.com, it has this blend of herbs. All right. I don't know what they are, but they are fantastic. I've actually lost like 20 pounds just from drinking this. It's no BS. I'm not blowing smoke. I've been drinking this for like 3 months now, and I've lost literally like 20 pounds. It's helped me go to the bathroom. It's been very gentle. You steep the tea. All right. You let it sit there for a bit. Then you put in a pitcher with a gallon. You drink a glass or two a day. It does the trick, nice and gentle. And I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't believe in the product, guys. So check it out. All right. They've got so many reviews. It's mind boggling. You can check it out at getthetea.com, getthetea.com. All right. Fantastic American-made product. Getthetea.com. Use promo code JAMES, JAMES, and get yourself free shipping and handling. I've said it before. I'll say it again. With Joe Biden's crazy inflation, the cancellation of pipelines, the restriction of our energy infrastructure, and the restriction of hard-working blue-collar Americans to do their actual job. The gas prices have skyrocketed across this country, skyrocketed. So shipping is expensive as hell. So when you're using that promo code James, you're getting one hell of a deal. All right. You're getting one hell of a deal by getting free shipping and handling, because the price of shipping right now is astronomical. All right, guys, go to getthetea.com, GETTHETA.com. Use promo code James, get free shipping and handling. I really appreciate you guys supporting our sponsors.